Thank you very much. So this was really a tour de force through the activities of COINS in the last couple of years and some of the plans that you have. And you addressed a number of different aspects of COINS. I just jotted down a few that just raised my particular attention: biodiversity monitoring. You did the socioeconomic surveys. You do a lot of mapping, remote sensing and mapping exercises in order to help farmers, for example, to understand and to know the sizes of their fields. You're working with a large number of partners in the field, in the innovation labs to understand a bit better how different innovations work and why and how they can be improved. So I can see that you have brought a group with you of some of the project partners whom I hope can then also assist us in answering some of our questions. And before I go on with asking any of the questions that I have, I would like to invite those in the virtual audience, if you have any specific questions to Jonas and or any specific person in his team, or Jonas, you can just divert any answers that you don't want to give to any of your team members in the room. Okay, I've got Tan. Please go ahead, Tan.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jonas. It's very interesting, very overview of the team, the work. I have a question regarding the mapping the size of the plot for the farmers. Do they wish to have that information or not? Because it is related also with the tax. I don't know if there's existing, because I know in some of the countries, they may not wish to know how big of my own plots, because then that means I may have to pay more tax if I know exactly. It may be bigger or smaller than I wish, I don't know. So is this any, conflict of the provided information to the actual situation in the field? Because in some of the countries, they have also, you pay, I mean, the same in Germany, you have the type of soil and then you have to pay the tax according to the amount of the land you have. So could it raise any, difficulty for the information delivered to the locals?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm just thinking because farmers in Senegal are getting vouchers for example for seeds and also for other inputs, and these vouchers are connected to the field sizes. But I'm not sure if they also have to pay tax for a given size, so that they have to pay more when they. So because the vouchers are for free. I'm not sure, Stephanie, maybe you was also involved in the participatory mapping. Was this something what came up during the discussions? Do you know it?
Sorry, I just missed the past 2 minutes. Can you repeat that?
No problem. No, the question was when we know the exact field size, if it's really in the interest of the farmers that they know the exact field size, because in some countries you have then to pay more taxes when you have a larger field than you.
Yeah, I think the thing with concerning tax was not on the land itself, but on the water that they have to pay. If I remember well, then they paid the water based on the number of plots and plot size as well.
Mm.
And insurance.
But I mean, but in the end, if you have a larger field than you expected, then you are also happy to get this inputs, so the correct inputs what you need for the area, right? So, but that was not this was not an issue or a discussion point.
At least it was not brought up. No.
No.
Yeah, but it's an interesting question, and I can see where Tan is coming from, because we also often found in the past that the farmers tell the foreigners just as much as they think the foreigners need to know. But since you have a very strong team in the field, it might just be something you raise. I don't know whether anybody from Senegal is in the group. I don't know your group members, whether that might be an issue. But I really like the the other idea of that they get the vouchers for the farm size, so they might actually be inclined to exaggerate a little bit to get some more inputs in that. Quite interesting. Yeah. I was actually wondering, sorry, since I'm just saying nobody is raising their hand in the moment, I'm just chipping in a little bit. I was wondering myself whether the farmers really don't know their field size. I find it a bit strange because they actually operate there. They will probably not know it in hectares or square meters or something, but they probably know pretty much how much they can plant in the field. Is it something? I mean, you seem to have found that it was an issue, otherwise you wouldn't come up with the delineation exercise. Stephanie, you did the socioeconomic survey. Is it something that must have come up, you know?
I was not involved in the socioeconomic survey, sorry, but it was something. I was also surprised because previous experience from Benin and Togo was the contrary, that people knew exactly, but it might also have been because we worked in areas where maybe the farmers were already more involved in certain activities, but they seem to all know very well how large their fields were to the decimal and hectares. When we measured together, it was pretty much the same, but that was not the case during the field campaign in Senegal. So the one prime, we didn't assess so many locations and plots that we could draw, that we could make a conclusive statement on this, but exemplary data show that the measurement or the estimation or the knowledge was off by up to 50% in one case. So that was a surprise, actually. And because the plot was smaller than expected, more inputs were applied, and initially the yield was still good because, well, a lot of seeds, a lot of fertilizer, a lot of everything. Initially it was good, but then of course you think a few years later, what will the soil look like? What will also the finances be like? Because, yeah, as Jonas said, you pay a lot more for your inputs if you use a lot more. And then when yields start declining, is soil degradation reversible or not? It was definitely, I would say it goes beyond anecdotal evidence because we also got this information from Manobi and IPAR as Senegalese partners. They have experience with that as well.
Very interesting. Thank you. Brigitte, welcome.
Thank you very much. Yes, Jonas, thank you so much for the presentation. I am, of course, interested in the innovation labs. And I would really be happy if you could explain a bit more how they function. I mean, you have shown who contributes to them, and there were really quite a high number, to me almost a bit surprising high number of institutions involved. And I thought possibly you could give an example when and just explain at an example of how the innovation lab works.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for this question. So the innovation labs are really a bit something like the core of the project because there are the things where kind of developed or kind of decided what is implemented where. And so how does it really look like? I really have to ask the leaders of the innovation lab. So, but in the end, it's a forum. It's a platform where all the actors meet and decide what kind of SI practices should implement it where.
Yeah. Is somebody here from the team who works with them or no? No, here in the room.
Our local partners, no one is here.
Okay.
Maybe someone, Javier, maybe you support me or Stephanie?
Javier, are you? Yeah, there you are. Go ahead. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Ah, now we can hear you.
That's right.
Are you on the mobile? Yes, somehow broken your connection. We cannot hear you now. Okay, maybe Stephanie, can you tip in here?
Sorry, not.
So it's more, it's directed by local partners. That's what I understand.
Mhm.
And of course, it will be interesting, maybe another time to learn more really how they do, because of course you can talk about some things, but really in order to identify, I could imagine that an innovation lab cannot just take place at a table.
So Jonas, because I was not really involved in any of that, I'm really not the best suited person to comment on it, but the approach was quite comprehensive, the stakeholder mapping, we do have reports, and there was a workflow on identifying relevant stakeholders. I'm not sure if that was a snowball system or any of the like. And then the lab itself is, yeah, it's not in an office, it's more a platform where people sometimes come together, but not all the time. It's more facilitating communications and exchange, right? So
Yeah.
So, sorry, I really think I'm not I'm not a
What
good
sorry
person
for.
to.
I know, Jonas Meyer, you are not. You have been appointed to the project lead not so long ago, so it might also not be the right question now to you. And Stephanie, thank you very much. Also, it's more like it's interesting how, particular since in the title of the project there is the co-development, to learn more on actually, and I think it can be nicely explained at an example how this co-development is actually happening. That was my interest, because I also like, apart from innovation labs, I like your title.
Yeah, and maybe we can have a different session where we really have a focus on the innovation labs, because we have two. We have one in Senegal and we have one in Ghana. So this could maybe be, and you're right, this is something what happens very at the beginning in the project. Yeah.
But-
Javier is trying again. No.
Javier has connection problems. Maybe Javier, once you have sorted your issues, it sounds to me like you're somewhere on the road, and thus you're losing your signal all the time. But it's an interesting discussion. The innovation lab, as I understood it, also as it works, it's really the joint operation of the people on the ground. And I also had a question, but I like the idea of maybe having a special colloquium specifically on these interactive activities, whether the innovation lab in Ghana and the one in Senegal exchange information, whether there is some kind of cross-cutting information exchange. I mean, they work on different things. The one works on the sustainable rice intensification, and the other one works on the soil management. But I could imagine that there are similar issues, like, some of these results that you showed us, where people get their information from, and how is the information flow going from innovator to farmers. Is there any structured process of learning for each of these innovation labs from each other?
Yes, so they are working together. So it's not a complete parallel session, so they are really strongly connected to each other.
Through a particular agency, or through staff
bilaterally
members that are sort of hopping through both?
Yeah, directly. So so Lanza is leading the innovation lab in Ghana, and CD Tunkara is leading the innovation lab in Senegal, and they are closely working together. So the leads of the innovation lab are working very close together.
Yeah, cool. Okay, but I really like that suggestion, and I'll take that up. That maybe earlier next year, in January or February, we could have a colloquium that is specifically on our approaches, Brigitte, isn't it? Then you can also maybe we can have some examples from the different projects. A discussion. Yeah, you're muted, but I saw you nodding. Cool. Okay, are there any other hands from anybody? Any other questions you want to ask to Jonas or his team? If there is nothing for the moment, I have a question, Jonas, and maybe you can guide me to the right person within your team. Since I've been working before my interfaces new life, I've been working a lot on biodiversity monitoring in German farms. And when you mentioned the biodiversity monitoring activities that you guys are carrying out, I thought that sounded very interesting, and I would like to know a little bit more about what you're actually monitoring in terms of biodiversity. You mentioned pit traps, so it seems to be beetles that you're looking for. So is it what are you looking for? Birds and herbs? And
That's more like insects. Yeah, insects.
What kind of
But
insects?
yeah, so this is done by Waskal. A PhD student from Kwame Hackman. He's sitting now at Tamale, and he has 6 plots.
Mm-hmm.
2 conventional, 2 non-agriculture area, and 2 SI practices, and they are collecting everything. So this is really with those traps, they are trying to monitor everything in the cropping season. And I think every 2 weeks they are going to the field and are counting the insects, everything what they can have in the traps. Yeah.
All right, this is a huge amount of biodiversity that's taken out of the world there every 2 weeks, and insects, so flying insects, crawling insects, all sorts of things.
Yeah, so this is where we should ask Kwame what exactly they
That would be interesting, yeah.
counting.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be interesting. To learn maybe later on. I would have a few questions. I mean, to that person, because 3 plots is not a lot. In our experience, we had problems that the seasons varied more than the locations. So in the end, we could not really compare between the locations because the variation between year 1 and year 2 was so big. In Germany, because of climate change situations. So we had these monitorings. We did that in 2017, 18, 19, and those were particularly dry summers. So insect populations broke down during the hot summers. So we, in the end, could not really anymore say anything about the actual effects of the treatments because the population had broken down. So that was some of the negative effects of climate change that we had to deal with. And I just saw, sorry, Stephanie, you just posted something in the chat.
Kwame and his team, Charles and others are also preparing an online module on their approach to biodiversity monitoring. So there's still some time until it will be available, but just on a side note.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that's cool. And that's a PhD project that you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. Okay. If there are no more hands, I'll just continue because I have a number of questions that I wanted to get rid of. You just mentioned PhD. You have quite a number of PhD projects also within COINS. Is that so? Is that correct? So much of what you presented is PhD work, or is that beyond PhD?
No, I think
because I know Stefan.
I'm not sure, but I think we have
last year. I don't know who else
4 maybe
in the group. How many? So now Jonas is frozen.
I think 4 or 5.
Oh.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 or 5 PhD students.
All right. Okay, because that's always quite interesting how these PhD projects chip into this larger kind of project. Okay. Then I'm just looking. Tan, you have raised your hand. Go ahead before I continue.
Yeah, thanks. I take my chance when you're checking the questions. I would like to ask about the modeling part, what you have in COE. So do you have all the climate data measuring, or you having all the database from the climate somewhere else?
Yeah, we have a lot of data what we are having from reports or from other projects. So it's not that we all data are measuring. In the end, because data collecting or sampling is always very expensive, time consuming, that's why we try to limit it. Also in the proposal phase, we try to limit it, those large field trips for sampling or for measure things. So most of them are from partners who already worked in the regions. Some things are from literature and some current inputs, like we try also to give inputs from remote sensing products like LAI, biophysical parameters. So this is something what we try to provide from remote sensing work. Yeah. But the calibration of the model is mostly done with parameters and with data what we already have or find in literature from all the projects.
Okay. But the data is like the data, spatial data based on the climate, for example, or is point?
Okay. You mean spatial data?
Yeah.
So the parameter of the crop model, like biophysical parameter, we are having from literature. And the spatial data, there we are using the well-known databases like SoilGrid or other spatial data, also climate data. And for calibrating the model on site, so on one point, we need mostly more data, and there we are also using, for example, climate station from Vasca to calibrate the model.
Okay. So you have the weather station from Vasca for
so Rascal is not in a project for providing climate data, but I mean they are measuring climate data and also flux data, what is very interesting for us, and also where we are involved in another project where they are measuring a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and they have also a climate data station with precipitation, temperature, wind speed, global radiation, all kinds of meteorological data.
Okay. So maybe it comes to my next question. Is this, as soon as everything is public, is this shareable database from the climate, what you are working with at the moment? I mean, you said based on the previous work from the other project, right? But I don't know if this data is shareable in the
do you mean the data about calibration of the model, or do you mean the
input of the model, also the climate data, also the biophysical, like leaf area index or the others?
So
like Morphos or somewhere you can also find.
So the input data is mostly public, because we are using public databases, and some data, for example, fluxes data, are not public. But this depends a bit in negotiation with Wascal. So when you come to them and provide an abstract for which purposes do you want to need, then this is more like a negotiation with Wascal. But this could be also an idea that we make over the whole consortium, not only our project, but then that we will sit together and discuss which data are you using, which data are we using, which data could share. So we tried this at one stage with Declare, with the socioeconomic survey, but we could also do this on another level for soil data, climate data, other data, biophysical data. So this could be interesting for both of us when we are using same databases.
Then it just come up to my mind because we also have some requests recently from students about the database and the difficulty for the spatial data, also climate data. So that's why I said, I also try to look for all the available free data, and also all the model what is available. But if there is, the measure data somewhere, what is available, not published, yes, it could be an idea.
Mm.
Yeah, but I may come back to you when I have more concrete.
So mostly the data from Pascal is sometimes public, sometimes not, but they have the data, so it's always good to just get in touch with them. And
Yeah. No, I am also just meet Hartmann a few weeks ago, I think, from the last meeting, and he also saw us a form, for example, like the drone images. If you have some requests, and there's a form, and then people basically need to fill it and then the request. So normally the data available, but these were the images. So I don't know about the climate. Maybe I come back with it later. Yeah, but thanks.
Okay, but I think that is quite important, that data collected within the regional projects, also within the projects here, is somehow shareable, because I guess we all have our requests for data policy, data repositories that are accessible for other researchers and so on. But yeah, I think Pascal is probably the best source, the first starting point for all these kinds of climate-related data. And Tan, you're also connected to Pascal anyways, not only through the Déclaré project, but also through other activities. So I think that's a good joint activities. And also in general, exchange between coins and Déclaré, of course, you are already at working level with these things. Super, that's cool. I just see we have a couple of minutes left, and I had one more question in my little book here. And that was on the, just in the end, Jonas, you mentioned that you were also working with existing innovation platforms. And I was just wondering, since you have your innovation labs and, you're linking up to existing innovation platforms, and could you give us some examples on these existing platforms? That was in your list. I think it was in your to-do list of all these things that you're planning.
I would just think about what
with, never mind if you. I just thought you had.
Yeah, just thinking. I mean, also with like existing platforms, like from governmental side, for example, but also from NGOs, if there are some where we can exchange. So this was like the thinking of where we should exchange.
So exchanging further with the partners on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, is there any further question to Jonas and his team? It's the last chance. We are closing. We have quite a number of people from the other regional projects here. We have a number of people whom I can't identify. I don't know whether they are from Coins or from outside. Should there be no more questions, then I should like to thank Jonas very, very much for giving us, as I said, a tour de force, a very quick overview of these many aspects and facets of Coins. Unfortunately, the time was not enough to really drill down in any specific activities, and I think that's something that we can put on our agenda for next year, that we then maybe exemplary look into more detailed activities, as some of the PhD projects are also advancing further. Then we can look a little deeper into the activities. And I do take away, and I really like this idea of looking a bit more in detail into the approaches, the innovation lab approaches, or the participatory learning platforms, or however we call them, just to share a little bit of experiences on that aspect, that we may continue that discussion in the future. Be reminded now that we have a summer break. We will not have any further colloquium in August. We'll meet again next in September on the 26th. So this is after Tropentag, on the 26th of September, where Minodu colleagues will give us an update on some of their activities. And before I close, Tan would like to say something. Tan, please.
Yes, before our next curriculum, I just would like to again remind that regularly we have the annual meeting on the 3rd to the 6th of September in Wissenhausen. So if some of you are interested in, of course, you are warmly invited. and we are organizing the program and everything at the moment. And then we all heading to Tag all together from the Declare team. So if any of you are interested in to attend it, and I may also have more questions come back to Jonas after the meeting, that is also clear for us that what students need. Then yeah, just please let me know. Then we will share the program and the other detailed information later.
Okay, thank you very much, Tan, for that warm invitation to everybody to join the Declare annual meeting. And if nobody else has their hand up now, I would like to close this session. Thank you very much, Jonas and team, for your presentation. Thanks everybody for contributing to the discussion. See you next time in September, and have a good summer break.